Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the regular meeting for May 20th, 2012. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Trustee Kruger?
Here.
Trustee Hein?
Yep.
Trustee Vogel?
Here.
Trustee Lang?
Here.
Trustee Heer?
Here.
Trustee Brady?
Here.
President Argyris?
Here. Entertain a motion for the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of May 6, 2013.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Trustee Hines, second by Trustee Brady. Roll call.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Heer?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
President Argyris?
Yes. Changes to the agenda, Mr. Santos?
No, sir.
No changes to the agenda. Proclamations. We have a proclamation for Officer James Plavonovich Day, May 20th, 2013. Madam Clerk, will you read the proclamation?
James Plavanovich began his employment as a police officer with the Wheeling Police Department on January 18, 1990. Through the years, he has held assignments in the Patrol Division as an officer, Evidence Technician, DARE Officer, NIPAS Mobile Field Force Member, Field Training Officer, and in the Investigations Division as a School Resource Officer, Youth Detective, and Homicide Detective. Throughout his career, James Plavanovich has dedicated himself to making Wheeling a safer place to live and work. After 23 years and 4 months of dedicated service with the Wheeling Police Department, James Plavanovich is retiring. Dean Argyris, President of the Village of Wheeling, do hereby proclaim May 20th, 2013, James Plavanovich Day in the Village of Wheeling in recognition and appreciation of his many years of dedicated service to the community and the police department.
Jim, you want to come on up? It's hard to believe a young guy like you was retiring. Thanks, buddy. Thanks for all the years of service. We really appreciate it. On behalf of the board and the village, there's a little something extra for you here. Oh, okay. You know, keep you busy. You want to maybe introduce your family over here? I know your wife here, is it?
And my wife. Everybody else is kind of busy tonight. Watching the box game.
Or recouping from all the parties.
Party.
But thanks, Jim. If you want to say a few words.
Thank you.
Great.
I didn't have anything really planned except for the fact that I know there's a lot of board members have been on the board for quite a few years, and there's some new board members. I see new faces myself. I just want to tell you what a good police department and fire department you have working for you. And I want you to stand behind them, because the more you support them, the better job they'll do. You've got good people from top to bottom in both departments. I've experienced over the last few years different departments. I come from Chicago, where my father and my two brothers all put 30 years in and retired. And I know a lot about police departments, so you're lucky. And the people of the village of Wheeling are lucky to have the professionals on both the fire and police. So if you could support them, that would make me feel good. I know there are good people that are out there.
Thanks, Jim. You have another proclamation there, Madam Clerk?
Yes, click it or ticket. The safety and security of the residents of the Village of Wheeling and surrounding areas are vitally important. A large percentage of our residents regularly drive or ride in motor vehicles on our roadways. The use of seat belts in passenger vehicles saved an estimated 11,949 lives in 2011. Regular seat belts use is the single most effective way to protect people and to reduce fatalities in motor vehicle crashes. The use of seat belts is supported by the laws of the state of Illinois and the Village of Wheeling. May 10th through May 27, 2013 has been selected as the National Click It or Ticket Mobilization Enforcement Period. Across the country, law enforcement officers will actively be participating in the mobilization to ensure all motor vehicles occupants are buckled up day and night to reduce the risk of injury and death caused in traffic crashes. Increased enforcement of seatbelt laws coupled with publicity has proven to be an effective method to increase seatbelt use rates and decrease fatal crashes. Dean Argyris, President of the Village of Wheeling, do hereby proclaim the Village of Wheeling's participation in the Click It or Ticket mobilization from May 10th to May 27, 2013, and urge all residents to always wear seat belts when driving or riding on our roadways.
Chief? Great job, your department. Thanks, sir. Thanks, sir. Appreciate it. National Gardening Week.
National Garden Week, June 2nd through 8th, 2013. The Wheeling Garden Club, in cooperation with the National Garden Clubs Incorporated, is promoting National Garden Week in Illinois. Garden Week involves setting aside a special week to strengthen communities by encouraging citizens of all ages to work toward common goals. Among Garden Week activities are educational programs, environmental cleanup, community beautification, flower shows, garden walks, youth activities, and workshops. The Garden Clubs of Illinois is a nonprofit organization with 206 clubs and more than 8,300 members throughout Illinois. The members are concerned citizens willing to devote their time and talents to the conservation, preservation, and beautification of our state's natural treasures, and to expand and share our knowledge for the betterment of the environment. Dean Argyris, President of the Village of Wheeling, urge all residents of Wheeling to proclaim to participate in and to celebrate June 2nd through June 8, 2013 as National Garden Week.
Mr. Schaft, the president of the Garden Club, the Wheeling Garden Club. Thank you, and to all your members, Norm. Our town looks great. You guys are out there doing a lot of great things out there. We really appreciate it.
On behalf of the Wheeling Garden Club, thank you.
Thank you. We're going to take a 15-minute break for a little coffee and cookies there in honor of our retired police officer, Jim, over there. And need a motion for that?
Motion to recess.
Motion to recess?
So moved. Second.
Motion by trustee Brady, second by trustee Hine. All in favor or roll call?
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Come back in 15 minutes.
There's Eagle Scouts.
I know.
Entertain a motion to reconvene to our regular meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by trustee Lang, second by trustee Kruger. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'd like to entertain a motion to appoint Paul Zangara to the Wheeling Plan Commission.
Second.
Motion by trustee Brady, second by trustee Vogel. Roll call.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Heer?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
President Argyris?
Yes. Administration of votes. Mr. Paul, would you come up front?
Okay, please raise your right hand. Right one. Right. I, Paul Zangara,
Paul Zangara,
having been appointed to the Plan Commission
having been appointed to the Planning
in
Commission
the Village of Wheeling,
in the Village of Wheeling,
in the counties of Cook and Lake,
counties of Cook and Lake,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
to support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and will faithfully discharge the
of the
duties of
office of Plan Commissioner
the Office of Planning Commissioner
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Paul, thanks. I know our staff and the other commissioners will be reaching out to you. Also, special thanks to Brad Gertz. We had a couple great interviews this afternoon, and I appreciate you guys coming out and supporting our village. Thank you. Okay. Citizens' concerns and comments?
Mr. Rosen?
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to talk to you tonight. I'm talking to you as a citizen, not as anything to do with the park board. I'm not talking anything as a commissioner or anything that has to do with the park board, just as a citizen. So please be aware of that. First of all, I wanted to thank whoever was involved in putting this email together that I got today regarding local taxpayer take action to protect yourself. And I just want to repeat it because I don't think most people saw that. And it's not something I think should be repeated, at least to be over the TV set. There's two other issues I have after this. It says the governor and the General Assembly are planning to divert revenues due to local governments in order to backfill the massive deficit in the state budget. A vote on these diversions is expected prior to the General Assembly's scheduled adjournment on May 31st. Diverting these revenues from local governments, and that includes not just you, but all local governments, many of which have already made the hard decisions necessary to balance their budget, will result in a stealth tax increase upon our taxpayers and/or further reduction in vital public services, including public safety. We need taxpayers in our community to stand up on behalf of responsible local government and contact their state representatives and senators to tell them to vote no on any diversion of local government revenues. And for that, I really thank you that you guys actually put that out there for the public to see. And I just wanted to make sure for those that didn't get to see that whoever might be watching TV should know about that in case you don't talk about it today. The second issue is a little different. It's a tax. I see that on today you're going to have a resolution declaring the tax years of 2010 and 11 surplus of the Southeast Tax TIF District, authorizing distribution of such to Cook County Treasurer's Office. It's a question, and I'll stick around if you don't want to answer it now, but are those funds going to be diverted into another TIF, a neighboring TIF, or where are those funds going to come out to the public? I'd like to know that answer.
I'll have Director Monashine answer that for you.
Those funds will be distributed to each of the taxing districts that are impacted by the Southeast TIF by the Cook County Treasurer. So that each taxing district that has some of their boundaries within that TIF district will receive their proportional share of those TIF dollars to do with as they see fit.
I really appreciate that you're doing that. I think we have a little bit of a history in that area.
Perhaps some of the confusion came, and this is the same process that we followed over the last couple of years, with the exception that now the monies are coming from us to the county and from the county back to the taxing districts, as opposed to directly from us. That's a requirement of the county, so maybe that is adding to the confusion as to why this is different than in the past. That's the only change to the way we've run the program.
Okay, thank you. And my third issue is one that's nothing to do with taxes, but with Wolf Road, only because maybe it's because I've been neglected, maybe following everything that's going on here, but is Wolf Road going to be repaved? I mean, that's the best thing to do for anybody's property values, especially in that area. They desperately need it. Plus, we're going to have a park hopefully opening next year, and it would be kind of silly to have the park open, and then they're going to start digging up the road. So
We're in negotiations with the state now over how that would look. So I can't answer with a yes or no. We expect that it will, and we're in negotiations to see how that plays out.
So there's a possibility it could be done this year, not
No.
the time when the park would be open?
This year, I don't see that happening from their budget standpoint, but we are working with them to make that a reality.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Rosen.
Mr. Heber?
Good evening, Mr. President, Board of Trustees. My name is George Heber. I'd like to say a few words in regards to the flood we had and the shelter we was set up. I know how hard the staff worked to get this here going. We seemed a little impatient, I know, because every time we heard from you, you were at a meeting, and nobody really knew when people were starting to come in. But everybody done a fantastic job. Our social workers did a great job. Angela, she's my tops. And, well, I tell her that. But every time we come into something like this, we learn something new. So tomorrow night we have a meeting for the care at the police station, at the training room. So any citizen that's out there that would like or become interested in the care program, we can always use new bodies. Definitely we can. And the second thing I'd like to bring up is the Park District. They were absolutely phenomenal. Jan was out of this world, bending over backwards. We started out, it was only going to be about 28 people. We figured like last time. We ended up, with my count, was 120. That's including the ones that come from Des Plaines. So I thank the Park District for everything. They handled it, they cleaned up. We were going to clean up, and they said, no, we'll do it. You can't use our equipment. And Jan, she's been this way since I've known her, and that's been since she come onto the board. Thank you.
Thank you. That's
Mr.
it?
President.
Thank you. Staff reports, Mr. Stavros.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a little reminder to our residents and the community and our local businesses that non-essential use of the water for water ban began May 15th. It'll continue through September 15th. During this time, non-essential water use is prohibited from noon till 6 p.m. every day of the week, including weekends. Types of non-essential water use are limited to not like washing of vehicles, pressure washing of streets, sidewalks, parking lots, paved areas, building exteriors, use of a hose for cleanup, general cleanup, and lawn irrigation. Newly laid sod or seed may be watered, but I believe it's non-cost permit can be obtained through the Community Development Department, Mr. Janik's office right here. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to ask another thing. I noticed there are some construction signs being posted on Milwaukee Avenue. Is there a time frame and what kind of construction are they planning on doing on Milwaukee Avenue?
It's for after they repaved Milwaukee Avenue, they've always had a drainage issue right across from the car wash by the auto repair shop there. Mm-hmm. And the water runs off the highway into the private property and floods the private property out. So they're going to install a new sewer inlet in that area. It was supposed to start, I believe, the 15th. They moved back to I thought the sign said the 20th, but it is scheduled to begin shortly. And it's I believe it's a 2-week, 3-week job.
That long?
Well.
So lane closures and all that?
There'll be lane closure going to the north. They'll move the traffic over, I'm assuming, but there will be lane closures. Okay. Yes.
And Palatine Road too, right? And Wolf with the bridge?
I believe that took place last weekend.
So it's done?
Yeah.
Okay, finally. Thank you, Tom. Consent agenda?
All items listed on the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the village board and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member or citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered after all other agenda items.
Motion?
So moved.
Motion by trustee Hare, second by trustee Kruger. Roll call.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Hare?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
President Argyros?
Yes. There is no old business, new business. 13A?
13A, ordinance granting special use and associated site plan approval for a carry-out restaurant for Little Caesar at 534B West Dundee Road, docket number 2013-8.
Thank you. Mr. Rahman, are you here? Would you come before the podium? Thank you. Mr. Janik?
Thank you, Mr. President. This proposal tonight, a request for special use is by Little Caesars, small unit at Lynn Plaza. This special use does not include any delivery, does not include any seats inside for eating inside. There will be 3 seats for people waiting, but this is strictly a carry-out business.
Okay, thank you. Questions from the board?
I have one, Mr. President.
Trustee Hare?
Are you going to close the one down the street at Buffalo Grove Road in Dundee?
We don't know yet.
Okay.
Yeah. So we might keep both of them, or we might move that one around here.
All right. Thank you. That's all I have.
Anybody else? I have a question real quick. Regarding the van or the vehicle that's with advertising, what resolve would we come in with that? Are you going to have that in the shopping center or different parts of the shopping center? Or?
We already spoke last time, and then we decided if we have to park at this store, then I'm going to move it in the back of the store. We're not going to park in the main parking lot. We have several other stores, so they're going to be moving around the van.
Because that is one of the conditions from the Plan Commission.
Yes.
Okay. There's nothing else. Entertain a motion.
So move.
Second.
Motion by trustee Hare, second by trustee Brady. Roll call.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Hare?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
President Argyros?
Yes. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Item 13B, resolution approving a contract with Michaels Corporation for the jointly bid 2013 sewer lining project.
Mr. Janik.
Thank you. This is a request to approve contract for sewer lining for 2013. Original bids, we did this bidding process with another municipality. Original bid came in lower than the budget for this year for 2013, so we added some more linear feet onto the sewer lining project. So with this, the result is approximately 7,000 linear feet of sewer lining. It will leave approximately $21,000 in the budget for the sewer lining project in case there are some other projects that we need to do.
Okay. Questions from the board?
So moved.
I have one, excuse me. I have one real quick. Just for the public's knowledge, when will this project start and what areas are you talking about?
There are 3 maps attached to this proposal, but there are neighborhoods mostly in the west part of the village, north and south of Dundee Road, and one area that's, I think it's west of south of Dundee and Schoenbeck.
Okay.
When it will start,
Yes.
most likely it will start in about 45 days.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Janik. Motion by trustee Brady.
If I may add to that, what we normally do and will do in this case is add the maps to our website so that the public can see exactly what streets are affected.
Okay, great. Motion by trustee Brady, I believe second by trustee Hare, was it?
I'll do it.
Okay. Roll call.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Hare?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
President Argyros?
Yes.
Item 13C, resolution approving a contract with Industria Incorporated for the Northgate Parkway Bridge repair.
Mr. Janik.
Thank you. This project concerns the Northgate Parkway Bridge just north of Dundee Road on Northgate Parkway. Problem with the bridge is that the center joint on the bridge has deteriorated to the point that it needs to be repaired. This repair was bid out. We had 4 different bidders. Just over $115,000. We had $100,000 in the budget. Our engineer on this is Baxter Woodman. This project should take about 30 to 35 days. There will always be 2 lanes of traffic going across the bridge, but those lanes will shift depending on what part of the bridge is being repaired.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Entertain a motion?
So moved.
Motion by trustee Lang, second by trustee Hein. Roll call.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Heer?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
President Argyris?
Yes.
Item 13D has 2 resolutions declaring tax year surpluses in the Southeast Tax Increment Financing District Fund. Item 13D1, resolution declaring a tax year 2010 surplus in the Southeast Tax Increment Financing District Fund and authorizing the distribution of such to the Cook County Treasurer's Office.
Mr. Monishane?
Thank you, Mr. President. If it's okay, I'll just take these 2 items together. As we touched on earlier, if approved, these resolutions would declare surpluses for tax years 2010 and 2011 in the Southeast TIF District and authorize the county to distribute the funds, approximately $314,000, to the overlapping taxing districts. As you know, back in 2008, the Village Board approved an intergovernmental agreement with the other taxing districts, which obligates us to declare as surplus any increment that comes from the River Mills development. Typically, these items would come to you sooner than this, but this was a slightly unusual situation. The EAV in the Southeast TIF District is actually below the base EAV when the TIF was established, and normally when that happens, there's no increment generated by the TIF district. In this case, we recently discovered that although the EAV is below the base, there's one tax code within the TIF district that's still producing increment, and that's the River Mills development. That just came to our attention recently, and as such, we prepared these resolutions for the board's approval so that we can get these funds back to the taxing districts that they belong to.
Thank you. Questions? Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by trustee Vogel, second by trustee Hein. Roll call.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Heer?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
President Argyris?
Yes.
Item 13D2, resolution declaring a tax year 2011 surplus in the Southeast Tax Increment Financing District Fund and authorizing the distribution of such to the Cook County Treasurer's Office.
Questions?
So moved.
Motion by trustee Brady, second by trustee Vogel. Roll call.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Heer?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
President Argyris?
Yes.
Item 13E, ordinizing approving a franchise agreement with Comcast of Illinois 11 LLC.
Director Stavros?
Actually, it will be presented by Attorney Frola.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. President. Before the board this evening is an ordinance approving a renewed franchise agreement with Comcast of Illinois. Currently, the village is under a franchise agreement that expires September 20th, 2014. That agreement was entered into September of 1999 with Telenoise, Inc. Telenoise was a predecessor to Comcast. Comcast has now taken over that agreement. Pursuant to federal and state law, Comcast timely notified the village of its intent to renew the current franchise with the village. Comcast provided a renewal document that's before you in a form that we've edited. The renewal document was prepared by the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus. It's a renewal agreement that's been used by most of the surrounding communities relative to the Comcast renewal. With a renewal of a cable franchise, we are rather limited in what we can request under federal and state law, and this particular document takes into consideration the limitations that we face. As you may recall, we conducted a public hearing on January 21st, at which time members of the public were allowed to speak regarding Comcast. At that time, several topics came up, rates being one. Another topic that was pretty prevalent was customer service guidelines. Relative to rates, rates are governed by state law, and we do not have the ability to dictate to Comcast or any cable provider, and in the village there are 3 currently, rates that they charge. And relative to customer service guidelines, the village has adopted the Cable Video Customer Protection Law, which is a state law. We've incorporated that into our code several years ago. That state law provides a very comprehensive set of standards that Comcast must abide by. It includes standards for service, standards for access lines, for example, that must be available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It has a schedule, just to name a few, for credits that Comcast must provide customers in the event it fails to meet its requirements under the Cable Video Customer Protection Law. That is a law that preempts home rule in Illinois, so it's a law that Comcast is very familiar with and realizes it has to comply with across the board. I want to just go over a couple of terms in this renewal agreement. The highlights, if you will. The term of this renewal is 10 years. The franchise fee, like the old franchise fee, is equal to 5% of annual gross revenues. That is a maximum that we can charge under state law. One of we think the beneficial features of this particular franchise agreement is that the village has the option of requesting that Comcast charge what's called a PEG capital support fee. PEG is the public access channel that we use for our meetings. We actually, under this agreement, can request additional channels. We'd have to pay for them, but we can request up to 35 cents a month be charged to customers, and Comcast will collect that and provide that to the village to provide capital in order to improve the PEG service to village customers if you decide to do that. We have a representative of Comcast here this evening. He's sitting in the front row, Daniel Maloney. Mr. Maloney can answer any questions relative to this renewal, and I can as well.
Thank you, Mr. Maloney. Questions from Trustee Heim?
Thank you. It says in the first page of the memorandum that we have before us this evening that the Comcast do not have available a senior discount. The only way that they might achieve some type of discount is if they had the so-called, quote, quote, bundle service, phone, cable, and internet, which might be a savings to them. I don't think this prohibits Comcast from creating a senior bundle. Many of the seniors in our community don't need 300 channels, and they're looking for standard types of TV, 2, 5, 7, 9, 11, 20, whatever, basic. So I would behoove you, if you could put something together, you are an industry leader, and I think that you would be paving the way for a new type of service that's exclusive for seniors.
Anybody else? Trustee Brady?
Wasn't that a Comcast cable that we had dangling about a month or two ago? Has that been fixed?
I believe it has been fixed. It was not Comcast, if I recall correctly. It was another provider.
Okay.
Trustee Kruger?
Thank you. I have a question about the renewal. This is good for 10 years, and then we renew again 10 years from now?
Yes.
So it's not a yearly review?
No.
Okay.
Anybody else? Trustee Hang?
I just want to piggyback on what I just said. You do have that capability, is that correct? If you wanted to create a senior bundle?
I hate to speak for our marketing people, but I would say generically, yes, it is. But on top of that, actually, we do, to the point you raised, Trustee, we are cognizant of the cost of the programming, and so we try to set up tiers and packages and offers that are responsive to our communities. It's certainly something I will take back. To your point about, the basic services, things like channels 2, 5, 7, the Wheeling access television, things like C-SPAN, and we do have, we call it limited basic. It's the initial starter tier of service, and that is $22.15 a month, about 76 cents a day. It includes, still a big number of channels, but it includes 60 channels. That's largely because of once the broadcasters went digital, it's not just channel 11 anymore. They've got 5 channels that they do. So, you start adding that up across them, you get to a lot. It also includes 46 music channels, the Cook County Access Channel. So we think, it's a pretty good deal. And that's the regular price. I think if you look across the board to us, to AT&T, to companies like WOW or Dish Network or DirecTV, we've all got our special offers. We're all competing to get customers. If you look at those, depending on what somebody's offering, we may look expensive at a given point in time. But when you look at what the regular prices are, we are all essentially the same, and it's driven by the programming.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Mr. Furlow, I got a question.
Yes.
Explain this PEG capital support system here.
Sure. What that provides, and Mr. Maloney, you can jump on what I answer here, is that the village, in the event we wanted to upgrade equipment, we needed additional funding to improve on our service, the village could request that Comcast collect from all the customers 35 cents per month on the account. That money would in turn be turned over to the village to use to upgrade its PEG system, if we decided we needed to do that. It's as simple as that, Mr. Maloney. Anything else?
It really is. Council mentioned the franchise fee is at the maximum permitted amount. Within the law, though, there's a carve-out, an exemption from franchise fees specifically for capital needs related to access. So during the 10-year term of this agreement, if you need to replace these cameras or there's some kind of an upgrade, at your election, you could direct us to put the fee on the bill up to 35 cents, so it could be less. Kind of a math exercise. How much for how long, and generate the money to replace the cameras or do some kind of an upgrade like that.
I guess the problem I have, are we restricted by state law that during our negotiations regarding a franchise agreement for 10 years, why does the burden have to be to the consumer of 35 cents a month? Why couldn't that be part of the negotiation? You want our business in our community, and if we need capital improvements here regarding your system, why does that burden have to be to the consumer? Why can't it be with the franchise?
I think you answered, your first question before you started was, are we restricted by state law? The answer is yes. The answer is yes. The state law says the franchise fee is 5% of gross revenues annually, and when you start to make inroads into that and ask for more, Comcast's position is, and any cable provider is, you're exceeding what you can request under state law, and it's very clear, Trustee Argyris. This is a heavily regulated industry. This is an industry that there are options here in town to Comcast for the residents, including AT&T, Dish Network, and Direct. Mr. President, I'm sorry I called you trustee.
That's okay.
I apologize, but you answered the question. It is.
Well, that's a shame.
It is limited.
Maybe they should spend less money on lobbyists and working people down in Springfield and worry more about the customers. Because I think us funding or asking the public to fund their infrastructure to give better service to the customer is ludicrous in sight of the 5% that we're getting to have them to have the privilege of selling their product here.
The additional amounts that we may charge, merely an option, relate solely to the improvement of the PEG channels. And the PEG channels are truly, Comcast is not making revenue off of the PEG channels. I mean, it's to provide, to provide our meetings to the public. Let's say the Park District decided, do they televise on Channel 17?
They do not.
They do not. I mean, you can enhance your system to allow for that. School systems to televise. There are a lot of ways to go here. So I think that Comcast's response would be that money is to improve the PEG access for residents versus Showtime, HBO.
I understand.
Production.
So right now, it's an option if we do it down the road. We're not actually enforcing it right now or
Yeah,
putting it in
we would
place.
have to actually, you'd have to decide as a board that we want to go that route and authorize the staff to send that letter to charge the up to 35 cents per month.
Okay.
Merely an option.
Anything else from anybody? Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by trustee Lang, second by trustee Vogel. Roll call.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Hill?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
President Argyros?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Maloney.
Thank you.
Item 13F, ordinance authorizing the sale of personal property owned by the Village of Wheeling.
Mr. Stavros?
I was going to ask a lot of questions.
Thank you, Mr. President. This evening, before you is a ordinance which will allow us to dispose of surplus meters. Currently, we have 123 brass meters that are surplus with 351 RTUs. Now, as you recall, the reason we switched over to the new program, the automatic ARMs, is because this system was no longer supported by Trace. This is a Trace system which is not supported by anybody that we could use. So these meters are not usable. They're not interchangeable with the system that we've changed over to. And as a matter of fact, there's not too many people that do use this system. We solicited prices, bids for this, and proposals. The scrap value for these, if you just scrap them out, such as the United Meter Inc. that's doing our meter installations right now, give us a price. And so did CNR Scrap, and both of them were under $2,000. We had two meter companies that we solicited as well, and one was for $7,500, one was for $12,000. That was Gunners Meters and Parts. I anticipate, under knowing what the Gunners does, that these meters probably will not, well, I know they won't stay in the state of Illinois. They'll either strip them down for parts. These do not meet the new 2014 low lead, no lead requirements by the IEPA, so they won't be able to be installed after this year, no matter where you're at in the state. These meters will probably be shipped overseas and used for metering overseas. So therefore, we're asking that this be approved. There'll be a secondary, just an agreement between United, or Gunners rather, which Attorney Farrell will put together for the signature of the sale.
Thank you. Questions?
I'll make a
Just to be clear, the motion tonight is just to declare the property surplus, and then I'll sign to authorize the sale.
Motion by trustee here.
Maybe Comcast will buy them.
Second by trustee Lang. Roll call.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Hill?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
President Argyros?
Yes.
Item 13G, ordinance prohibiting the use of groundwater as a potable water supply by the installation of or use of potable water supply wells or by any other method at or within the area designated on Exhibit A attached hereto and made a part hereof.
Attorney Ferrillo.
Thank you, Mr. President. Before the board is an ordinance prohibiting the use of groundwater for the property at the corners of the southwest corner of Dundee and Elmhurst Road. As you all know, that was the site of a former gas station. The property has suffered impacts, environmental impacts, and there's been an impact to the groundwater related to petroleum products. The ownership of that property has attempted to have the property remediated such that an NFR letter can be obtained from the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency. The agency will not issue that NFR absent some form of addressing the groundwater. Now, in order to clean up groundwater that's been impacted, it's a very expensive process. The IEPA realizes that it may not be necessary to clean the groundwater as long as there's a restriction that prohibits the use of that groundwater for any sort of potable water source. This ordinance provides that no well can be drilled in that area relative to using that groundwater for human consumption, bathing or washing, whatever the case may be. The ordinance prohibits any party from drilling a well to get to that groundwater, as well as the Village of Wheeling. It's been looked at by our environmental consultant and as well as the village to determine whether or not there'd be any need to drill a well in that area. The answer is no. We recently have passed an ordinance like this on Dundee Road, the site of the Jiffy Lube, a few months back. And what this does, this type of an ordinance, it will allow the ownership to gain this NFR letter. It will allow the ownership then to market this property and become a developed site. And until that happens, the site will remain vacant because there's no one will be able to obtain financing. A lender will not finance without an NFR letter. So this is a process that the village can engage in, has engaged in order to render this property in the eyes of the IPA safe for human presence on that site.
Let me ask you a question. Is there, if I may, is there a site or any other sites within the community that do have well supply? How about across the street at the new Shell station? Wasn't that a well down there in a pumping shed that's in the back of that site over there?
I can't answer that.
There's some type of pumping water thing over there.
There's a pump and a remediation system that is by the Light Mart that was constructed. Okay. There's a separate building there, and it circulates groundwater and remediates it. And they have test wells out there, and every once in a while they come out and they'll check them. I have no idea what the current status of it is, but I know that there was one built there for that site. But like Attorney Frillo said, this is not unusual. We've done this in the past at the corner of Wolf and Dundee. We did it at Milwaukee and Dundee.
Right.
These are common, and as long as we're not
we're not creating any new ones.
Construction of new wells in those areas, which we know we're not going to, doesn't affect anything.
Thanks. Trustee Brady?
Doesn't our ordinance already prohibit that? Drilling a well within the city limits?
It doesn't prohibit the village from doing it. So the village, this ordinance prohibits the village from drilling a well.
Okay.
We can't, there's no party that can go into the groundwater. Now, because we have city water, we have Lake Michigan water, we have an ordinance that states you cannot use well water. You have to when the city water, the ordinance says when the city water reaches a certain, Lake Michigan water reaches a certain distance within your property line, you have to connect. I think that's the ordinance you're referring to. But that doesn't restrict the village from drilling wells.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
A private individual could not drill a well. I know we have an ordinance on that, but we couldn't drill a well.
The IPA, in order to issue the NFR, they want to see a comprehensive groundwater ordinance like the one before you.
Good. Okay.
Any other questions?
I'll make the, oops, sorry.
Trustee?
Yes. How long, Jim, before the NFR is received? How much time do you have to wait?
The timing here, once this ordinance is passed, the ownership of that property will make a submittal to the IPA. They're the ones that apply, and typically it's anywhere from 3 to 5 months before the IPA responds. Sure.
That it?
So moved.
Motion by Trustee Brady,
Second?
second by Trustee Kruger. Roll call.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Heer?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
President Argyris?
Yes.
Item H, discussion regarding 61 North Milwaukee Avenue demolition proposal.
Mr. Ferrillo?
Actually, that's me.
Is that you?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, John.
No problem. The discussion topic for tonight, 61 North Milwaukee Avenue, is known as the Don Roth's site. Currently still houses the old Don Roth's restaurant. The question before you tonight is one of direction. about an agreement that we could enter into with the ownership of the restaurant in order to demolish the property prior to having a developer on hand for the site. We have done this in the past, for example, with the Kmart building at the corner of 83 and Dundee. Some things to consider about the cost. This would be a cost-sharing agreement, which is something we can talk about tonight. Ownership is represented here tonight, so we'll ask them to come up. This is a TIF-eligible expense. As you know, with most projects inside of a TIF, there are a number of eligible expenses that are a part of any development agreement. This would otherwise be part of any such agreement. So what we're doing is using that same money ahead of time in order to improve the attractiveness of the site and, of course, remove any kind of public nuisance that a vacant building could hold. The only reason that we would consider that is if a building is not available for second-generation use, like the old Kmart wasn't and like this building isn't, because the scale of required improvements to the building far exceeds any reasonable expectation of cost that a developer would put into it. So we know that if someone comes in, when someone comes in for that property, that they would demolish the property and start over. So that's something to consider. The property is mostly in the floodplain. One of the most logical questions to ask is, how does this impact the village's tax base? And the answer is, it really doesn't. The difference is negligible. As a vacant property now, meaning vacant because there's no active business on the site, the difference between what the tax payment is, what the village's portion of the tax payment is as a vacant building versus just raw land is negligible. So there really is no financial impact to making this decision now. Of course, the percentage of village contribution versus ownership contribution is something that we can talk about now, and if the village board wishes to move forward, we can get an RFP. We have an estimate of what that amount would cost and move forward formalizing an agreement to demolish the building in advance of a formalized development agreement with a new developer. So with that, if we can ask the ownership to come up and answer any questions.
Questions from the board? Trustee Lang?
Thank you. Did that basement take on any water with this most recent flood?
Not that I'm aware of. First of all, good evening.
Hi.
I'm Doug Roth. I'm the son of Don Roth, originally, obviously, in Wheeling now for almost 40 years. And to answer your question, I'm not certain that it does. It's vacant, and we do have an alarm system. Nothing showed at this point that there was any indication.
Okay. If it did take on water, for instance, would that change some calculations on building worth and so on with FEMA? Would they? I know we're doing some things right now with condemnation for certain buildings, and
I don't think that it would, and I don't know historically if the building has ever taken water. I know the property in the back does hold water, but I don't think it's ever affected the restaurant.
It's slightly on a hill, so not that I'm ever aware of that we've had any flooding issues.
So the answer is no, that I'm aware of.
Okay. It just pains me to have to take that building down because the restaurant was such a great fixture in Wheeling for all these years. So, but I understand.
I'm happy to sell it to you, sir.
Trustee Vogel?
You're asking for our money, so please. I was being serious.
Well, we've also been around for 40 years, and as you know, we've paid taxes for the last 40 years, and hopefully have been a good citizen to the city of Wheeling as well. So I'm going upon, obviously, our reputation, and we certainly spent many years building up Restaurant Row. I remember as a child going into 7 Countries. I don't know if people remember that restaurant that was there, but when we did go in and realize that was going to be a new restaurant, and my father created, obviously, Don Roth. So hopefully we spent a lot of time and a lot of goodwill with the city.
Thank you. Trustee Vogel?
2 questions. One, the $110,000 bid, did the village solicit that, or did the Roth family solicit that bid? Demolition.
I can answer that. The village solicited that. It's not a bid. It's an estimate for a cost. So it's not bid out yet, but we've dealt with a lot of contractors in the past, demolition contractors, and that was an estimate as to what the cost would be.
But we will bid it?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
We wanted to provide the board with kind of a foundation from which we can talk then about a cost-sharing agreement so that you know about how much money we're talking about.
Understood. Thank you.
Trustee Hein?
Thank you. You've been advertising this piece of property for a while for different uses. That is a part of Restaurant Row, and Mr. Don Roth was a very important part of Restaurant Row for many years. The question I have is that we have no guarantee of what type of restaurant what type of business is going to go in there. I, for one, am not in favor of using TIF money or any other money to demolish a building when, in fact, it should be a part of a development cost. The building has seen its use. It has paid for itself over the years. Right now, it can't probably be used as a restaurant because of the fact that it's been vacant for such a long time. But it is an absolute premier spot on Milwaukee Avenue for a quote, well-established restaurant concern. My fear is somebody else coming in and using it for use that we're really not happy with. And I would much prefer that the owners of the property take that in consideration when they're negotiating. We have no way or means to be a part of the negotiations, and I firmly believe that we should not be using TIF monies for something like that, even though it's on Milwaukee Avenue. We have to get I have to get something for the $110,000. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Hare?
Since this is just a discussion, I would be in favor of moving forward and exploring further.
Thank you. Trustee Krueger?
I had a question with regard to the foundation, and perhaps this is either for Mark or John more than you, Mr. Roth. What's the likelihood, I think in the packet it indicates that we're going to leave the foundation there and fill it. What's the likelihood that a new developer will find the foundation that we're filling in viable support for a new structure? In other words, is removal of the foundation a potential future TIF expense for the Village of Wheeling in the future?
Mark, how about we split this? I'll take the latter portion. Yes, I think there is a chance that a future developer could ask, depending on what they were going to use the property for, that we remove the existing base. However, that will be pretty far underground because it will be covered over. I think it's a risk, certainly, but it's a good risk for us because either way, the expense is TIF eligible, and anyone coming in would ask for it later. I don't know if we could say there's more of a percentage that the foundation wouldn't get in the way. I would argue on that side of it. So I think it is wise to bury it now and work around it. Mark, would you want to add any details about what you think the expectation of a future user would be with that foundation?
Location of the building itself, it's most likely that the building probably wouldn't be located in that location in the future. Most likely it's going to be a parking lot in that location. You probably put the building maybe in the middle, filling in the basement right now with fill and then putting seat on top of it. It's possible it might need to be taken out in the future, but for a municipality, for where we're spending money to haul away all the concrete, take all the concrete out, it's just more expensive for us.
I don't want to do that now.
A lot of times, we've demoed numerous buildings, and a lot of times we just leave it in place.
Thank you very much.
Trustee Brady?
How many spinning salads you figure you'd sold in 40 years?
How many spinning enough to put myself through college, sir?
Okay. Seriously, you started the business, your dad started the business there 40 years ago, but wasn't that building your business started in an existing residence?
I thought it was a restaurant originally, which was the Seven Countries.
From what I understand, that was a house at one time.
Yes, it was a farmhouse.
So that building has been there a long, long time, more than the 40 years that's in the report.
Back into the 1800s, from what I gather.
Yeah, so usually saving any foundations there, you can forget about, because part of it's probably old stone anyways, but, you know, in order to really market that corner, that house is distracting from the true value of that property. As anything else, it's a nice piece of property, it's deep, it's wide, it's ideal, and to, sooner or later, the TIF money is going to go to tear that house down. I'd rather see it done now to get a little interest sparked in that piece of property, and do it later, and not have the advantage of moving forward with this thing, pushing it, because now we have a clean piece of property. The only thing I would ask, if we do this, would we leave the parking lot in, Mark, or is it, or you know, if any portion of the parking lot that we maybe use for certain things, like parking for the fountain, if they can't get behind the bank?
The estimate that we have includes, there's two sections of it. One includes tearing the parking lot up as well. I got to tell you, I would say do the whole thing at one time. I'm not sure when the property is going to get developed, but the asphalt probably isn't worth much anyway either.
Yeah, probably not. You know, to save that building, it'd be ridiculous. Don Ross has remodeled, I don't know how many times in the 40 years they've been there, and I know for a fact that restaurants remodel, and a lot of stuff goes on inside that building. It'd make it totally useless for anybody to come in and do anything with it. First of all, to just bring it up to code standards, you know, the washrooms are in the basement, there's no elevator, you know, there's so many things that have to be done there, and I don't think it'd be even feasible to even think about saving that building. I think we should tear it down, including the foundation, because, you know, you say it costs money to tear it down, but if you do it now, it's cheaper. Well, you've got the equipment there, and you've got the hole there, take the foundation out, then fill it in, you're done. Filling it in and maybe later on going in and digging it out, it's going to cost more money. If we're going to take the whole thing out, let's do it, dress that up, and so a new developer can come in here and take it over and hopefully do something nice for us there. I'm all in favor of taking it down.
Thank you. Trustee Hein, you got another question?
Thank you. The original building that was there was a pottery. It was called Hagerstrom's Pottery. And 7 countries came in and put in a restaurant there. They had a very severe fire. I happened to be on the fire department when we fought that fire. I remember it very well. Don Roth came into Wheeling and wanted to put a Black Hawk restaurant in Wheeling. We only had one downtown, and Don Roth was one of the finest restaurateurs around. The question I have is, as far as, I have nothing with, the building should be torn down. It should be a part of a developer expense. I don't think we're going to benefit anything by it. Also in this agreement, it says that we are going to also take out the existing parking lot, and it's going to be paved, I mean, it's going to be seeded and it's going to be put into grass. There's got to be somehow, some way in agreement where we can use that parking lot for some type of municipal parking until something happens over there. That parking lot is in pretty good shape. To take it out, to me, is totally ridiculous. But I'm for one, I'm not in favor of no TIF money being used for this demolition. Thank you.
Well, I've always come with the philosophy there, you got to get that thing shovel ready. And right now, putting a tire store in there or try to market that thing with an existing building that could never be used with floodplain issues over there, it's blighted. We have an ordinance in this community. When buildings are abandoned, basically it's abandoned, it can't be used again, they're supposed to come down. We had the issue, if you guys recall, with the Kmart building. We looked at that white box for 10 years with nothing but code enforcement, health issues, people living in it, until we came to a decision to help that owner over there knock it down. I believe, you know what, in my heart, that using TIF dollars to help this program and get it down is a good thing. I don't believe in paying for the whole thing, though. I'll be very candid with you. We didn't do that with Kmart. I'm not looking to spend $110,000 and carrying the whole cost of that. But I think staff is looking at, and I concur with them, is a cost-sharing proposition to you and to your family. Maybe 65-45, where we knock down the building, you take care of the landscaping and the parking lot and get that thing seated at $45,000 and we move forward with it. Whatever developer comes in there, there's going to be TIF incentive. We know that. And let's be honest, there's about 5 years left of that TIF, and it's over with. So the faster that we can help them sell that property and get that thing back on the tax rolls to generate revenue for this community, create jobs, the better we're all a winner here. But my proposal, and I think staff would back me on it, is we share the cost on this thing, just like we did with Kmart. We covered the first $65,000. Anything over that is a responsibility of the owner. Mr. Vogel?
What was the sharing with Kmart?
I'm going to say it was almost like the 60-40, 65-35 split on that.
Anybody recall that there was no sharing?
I'd have to look it up.
I thought we refused to share.
Oh, we did. Oh, we did.
There is a formal agreement. Whether or not we got paid is a separate question. And I don't recall the split specifically myself. There was a cost-sharing agreement. We'd have to look up the details. I don't recall either.
So if precedence has been set in the past, would like to know what that was.
Each agreement, there's no precedent for us to do this, participate in any way. So you have the absolute ability to negotiate whatever you'd like tonight.
You want to add anything to this cost-sharing thing? John? Any comments?
Are you going to poll?
I'd like to get a consensus on that. I think the formula 65-45, what's presented before us on an estimate from Langos, is a good start.
Are we going to leave Mr. President, are we going to leave the foundation in or take it out? There's two issues here.
Well, I concur with staff's recommendation. It'd be costly to get rid of a foundation over there right now, not knowing what's going to be there in the future.
Can we
Keep
look at
costs
both?
down. I think getting rid of the basement, fill in the basement, the building, fill in the basement with 4 inches of topsoil and seeding it, removing the asphalt parking lot that's all full of weeds and cracks and it looks terrible, and topsoil and seeding that as well, makes that site a good, marketable, almost shovel-ready site for future development there.
Right, this is just a discussion though, so obviously they can come back and
Oh,
give
and they could, and they probably
an
would.
idea of how much it costs just to take out the additional.
And I think it's noted, too, if there's $65,000 already spent on that site, that's part of the incentive to anybody in the future that comes before us. That $65,000 doesn't go away. If a guy comes in there and wants $300,000 in TIF incentive based on a new restaurant that's promised us the world, and the studies and the consultants come back that this is a good investment here, well, $65,000 has already been spent. And that's got to be taken into consideration for the future.
Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
Leaving the foundation in could present problems in the future. We don't know what's going to be built there, but even if they move the building, you still have utilities, site drains, et cetera, pipes that have to be crisscross that lot. And you're going to be working on that foundation back then, and you're going to have to take the top off, top 3 or 4 feet. Otherwise, it's going to be sticking out of the ground. By the time you do that, what's it take to take the rest of it out?
Well,
Go ahead. I'm forgetting an estimate. A new estimate
we don't
including
have
the
it.
foundation.
Go ahead, John.
Mr. Janik, do you even have an estimate as to what the option for complete removal would be? Or at least in your experience, how much of an increased cost that would be?
$5,000 to $8,000.
Oh, that's it?
Maybe 10. You have to dig out, you have to get a backhoe. Like Trustee Brady said, this foundation, we're not talking about some reinforced concrete foundation. We're probably talking brick. It'd be a lot easier to take out, so I don't expect it's going to cost that much money. Maybe $10,000 more.
There also is one added benefit that we haven't necessarily approached, and we have mentioned that we would certainly donate the building to the city, and there has been discussion that either the fire department or police department could use that for training. And I believe that's already been broached with the chief of both the fire department and the police department. So that is obviously an added extra that you sort of would be getting on top of obviously what we'd have to be paying.
And we appreciate that. We really do. Because a lot of the businesses do that, too.
Perhaps maybe we can structure something where we will allocate X number of dollars towards the demolition of this building when and if they have a suitable person that's going to buy it. We'll put the money up then to take it down.
Well, unfortunately, sir, we closed in 2009. We have not had any viable offers. As you know, that this, and certainly being very familiar with the city, this is a gateway to Wheeling, and I believe the building itself is not something that is, what I'll say is an attraction to the city at this point. And that being the case, we have two options. We can continue to keep the building up and put paint on the building and just continue to have the building there and continue to pay our taxes. And we've been paying those taxes. We've been paying what it takes to keep that building up. Or we can work together and try to figure a way that it's going to be a win-win situation for both our family and also for the city of Wheeling.
I know you've been marketing this for a while. Have you had any offers where they wanted to use the name Don Roth because it still carries a lot of clout? Are you willing to do that?
We've had no offers whatsoever, and I appreciate you stating the fact that it does. I think a lot of people have memories of certainly the name, but in today's market, there are other names at this point that have a little bit more equity.
Have you offering that as an incentive?
Sir, I'll offer anything right now that seems reasonable. If anyone would be interested in operating that restaurant under the name Don Ross, we'll be able to look at that. But frankly, if you've seen the building, it's not inhabitable. So whoever's going to put up a new restaurant is going to have to build a new restaurant in that space.
Okay. I'd like to get a consensus on this and share the cost and remove the foundation, as suggested by Trustee Brady and Director Janik. The consensus I'm looking at is not to exceed $70,000. Share the cost. Originally here on the proposal, we got $65,000 without removing the foundation. The removal of the parking lot and topsoil and seed was $45,000 as an additional. Add another $5,000 not to exceed $70,000 on our end. If it costs a little bit more, get it done all right. Move the utilities like you talked about. Get rid of that foundation and be done with this thing. So that's a consensus I'm looking for tonight. I'll start with Trustee Brady.
Let's go all the way. Take it down.
Not to exceed $70,000.
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
I agree with that, yes.
Trustee Hare?
I concur.
Trustee Lang?
No.
Trustee Lang?
Not interested in any TIF incentive at this time.
Okay. Trustee Hare? Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
No.
And myself, yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Staff will contact you.
We'll work it out.
Thank you.
Official communication this evening, I'm going to start with Trustee Lang.
Thank you. I participated last week in the document destruction at Public Works, and I thought it was a great event, and I had some things sensitive papers that I wanted to get rid of, and this was a great way to do it. One thing that was a little disheartening, though, in pulling up and dropping my papers off, is that they weren't destroyed right in front of me. You know, it was filling up a garbage bin, and then I drove off. And I was thinking about it, going, that's ridiculous. And I'm sure they waited until they got a half-full barrel, and then they threw it in the shredder. But for the future, I think they need to change that. And I know is it the way that this company operates? Is it their rules? Do we have some say in changing it in the future?
That's standard operation procedures that they do when they do the document destruction. There's a lot of cars that have to go through the line, and they put a time limit of 4 hours on it. There was an area off to the side where a few residents parked and waited for the can to go up in. But, I mean, you'd have to have a whole lot of parking to have everybody waiting around to watch the cans go up, because they don't take them up every time a box gets thrown in.
And that's, I mean, that would, unless that was changed in the future, I would never put anything in that can again. And these guys may be very trustworthy, but I don't know them, and we don't really know them that well. And we don't know that the documents are truly destructed when they go into that big truck.
Well, if you were standing there that went in the truck, would you know if they were destructed?
Well, that's the thing.
Destroyed?
I think if I actually saw a shredder, I mean, document destruction to me is putting something in a shredder and getting it torn up enough where it's not legible anymore. That's what I sort of hoped that this was, and I was really disappointed that, at least I didn't see that part of it, to know that it was truly gone. And, you know, I think for the future, is there another organization that does it that will do it at a safer way? And
No, I'll turn that over to Assistant Director Christine Bezier. She's in the audience. Christine was heading that up. Christine, can you come up and explain a little bit about the process of that, please?
Thank you. The company is actually through the Solid Waste Agency of Northern Cook County, same as the Electronic Recycling SSI. So they go through their procedures through the bidding process to see what's the best cost for the amount of time and the amount of municipalities that participate in the program. I can certainly bring your concern up to the board members there at Swank, and John as well can also bring it up to them.
Well, I am a board member, so noted.
I'll talk to you later.
So I will bring it up, and as John stated, he will also bring it up. I'm not sure if it's something that they can put into consideration in the future. And as Director Stavros did indicate, you know, we did have a little bit of an area where residents can view to make sure that their documents have been securely shredded. And it is a cross shredder that, you know, the container goes into the truck and it gets cross shredded inside. But unfortunately, also as Director Stavros indicated, there is a traffic flow that we have to kind of maintain, and to have each individual vehicle look and watch to make sure their documents are shredded does create a little bit of a flow problem.
Well, at the time I went, there was one other car, and that was in another lane. And so I think they could take 4 cars at a time, it looked like. It just, something's got to change with it, otherwise it's not worth doing. Because it's like throwing it out in the garbage. You hope that it goes into a landfill and no one sees it again. You don't know what's going to happen to it.
I will bring it up at the next board meeting, and I know this doesn't allay your concerns because those are legitimate concerns, and I would feel the same way about wanting to see my paperwork destroyed. But the contract does stipulate, just so that you're aware, that the company cannot leave the site. Everything has to be shredded on site. They cannot take bulk bins and shred them back at their site or their facility. I know that doesn't allay your concerns, but there are legal obligations for the destruction on site of anything brought that day. So there are some technical reassurances, but the visual is what you're after, and I hear that.
Thanks.
Mr. President, if I might comment on this?
Go ahead.
I've used the service twice, and there's always been 2 staff members there to oversee the operation. And sometimes even a public works or a person there. I don't see how this company can do anything underhanded with our people there watching it.
Okay. There was no one from staff there at the time I was in there, so.
Okay.
There were just a bunch of guys who grabbed stuff out of my trunk.
They're pretty quick.
Yeah, you don't know how quick they are.
Spare tire and all.
Anything else?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Trustee
Well,
Vogel?
Christine is still here.
Oh, yes.
Do you know, a couple people have asked if there's a hazardous material collection scheduled?
Unfortunately, there are only a few locations that offer hazardous waste collection. The state many years ago offered one-day collections around in different municipalities. Due to funding, they completely cut that down. The state does have 2 permanent location sites. There's also the SWALCO, which is the Solid Waste Agency of Solid Waste Agency of Lake County, who offers a drop-off by appointment only at no charge to Illinois residents. And then there's other municipalities that kind of host their own drop-off as well. But the 3 basic ones would be the permanent locations, one in Rockford, one in Naperville, and the Solid Lake Cook County organization, and they're out in Gurnee, Illinois.
Okay, well, we have no plans to do something like that in Wheeling?
A few years ago, we've looked into and researched it, but based on costs and permitting and so forth, there's a lot that you have to take into actually having a permanent location or even a one-day sponsored event.
It's horribly expensive and becomes cost prohibitive simply because once you collect it, you own it. So no matter what people bring, now it's up to whomever is collecting it to dispose of it and then potentially pay fees for it. I think that's why, even the state got rid of their plan. But there are other options for perhaps not hazardous, but I know, is it Home Depot that collects paint? I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
Yeah, no, that's all right. There is a difference if it's latex paint versus oil-based paints. If it's oil-based paint, that's considered more hazardous in the environment than latex paint. In latex paint, there's a procedure at home that you can do to be able to dispose of it properly. Certainly, if you pass out my number, I'd be more than happy to help residents out and find a solution to disposing some of their hazardous materials if it's something local that they can take to, or if by chance they have to go to a more extensive location such as Gurnee or Naperville.
Okay, thank you.
The public can also go to swank.org, SWANCC, Solid Waste Agency of Northern Cook County, swank.org. They have other information of drop-off points and things, not necessarily what you're looking for a general hazardous collection, but there are opportunities depending on what you have. There's a lot of information listed on swank.org.
Yeah, most of those old paint thinners, that type of thing. And I know the latex, you can add sand or cat litter.
Correct.
Until it dries up and solidifies, and then it can go on the waste.
Regular garbage.
Regular waste
Correct.
management pickup. Okay.
Is it?
No, I had one other thing. Sure. Thank you. That was it for Christine. Code violations. There's procedures we have to go through. If someone calls in and says their neighbor's house has been abandoned and the yard is 2 feet tall, and they call in and report it. I know there's procedures we have to go through, and there's probably some obstacles we have to overcome before we can get some action on it. But what exactly, for the public's view and knowledge, what exactly do we go through? I'm going to call someone tomorrow and tell them that my neighbor's they're gone, they abandoned the house, it was renters, and the yard is 3 feet tall, it have weeds. What's it take and how long does it take for something to be done about that? What do we have to go through?
Depending on the violation, well, first of all, if you call the code hotline, it is completely anonymous. We do not ask that anyone leave their name or telephone number, and we do that simply to encourage people to call, and obviously we can't have eyes and ears in every corner of our village, so we ask, for participation from our residents for that. But so it is completely anonymous. Depending on what the violation is, it's far more immediate if there is an owner present, such as the example you gave about grass. If there isn't, then we have to locate the owner. Mark, you could talk in a little bit more detail. We have to go with the bank. But if, in your case, there is an abandoned house that we assume is bank-owned, we add it to our list in Public Works and then back charge the owner. So either of you guys, if you can, Mark or Tony, if you want to talk about a timeline, it's a pretty quick turnaround.
Well, there is due process that we have to go through. We first, typically, if it's a normal situation, we have to give a warning tag. We give people a certain number of days to meet that. If they don't, then we have to give them an actual ticket.
Is it because of the way our ordinance is written, we have to give them that time frame, or is it because of some state code that we can't go out there? I mean, the neighbor down the street from us has got a TV and a hot water heater laying in his driveway and has for a couple of months. I mean, something like that, do we have to, is the state prohibiting us from going out and picking it up and putting a lien against their house?
No.
Or is it our own ordinance? I guess I don't understand there's a time frame we have to wait for.
Any time that we are giving out a violation notice, we have certain standards in our code, certain time.
So it's our code.
Yeah. I mean, every municipality does, every government does. I mean, there is a certain time you need to give somebody to rectify a wrong.
There is state codes too that get involved with this, particularly with weeds. With weeds, typically what you want to do as a municipality, cut the grass ultimately and charge back. There is a state statute regarding weed cutting and weed abeyance and liens. We adopted that statute, and our code is very similar to others, where ultimately you look for an owner, sometimes you can't find an owner, and you have to post notice on the door that you're in violation of code section, whatever it is. I think our weed ordinance is, I think it's 7 days before we actually cut the grass. Once we get to the point of posting, and it is due process, we can cut the grass, go on somebody's property. I mean, that's a big deal, going on to someone's property to abate an ordinance violation, cut the grass, and then charge back with a lien. So there's due process here. We haven't placed it on ourselves because we enjoy jumping through hoops. There is that necessity with a hot water heater that's been on the property for some time. You know, when you issue a citation, the citation means someone's taken to court, in our case, administrative adjudication, so they can put their case on and argue why they haven't violated the ordinance. We can't be judge and jury out there where there are, we decide it's a violation, you owe us a fine, and then just impose that fine. We've got restrictions. We have not handcuffed ourselves beyond what we need to. I guess that's what it sounds like you're going at. Have we imposed this on ourselves? No. There are fundamental due process rights that property owners have. Weeds are one thing, and that's posting. A hot water heater sitting on a driveway, we should provide some notice. You need to get rid of this by X date or you're going to get a ticket. Our ordinance doesn't provide that we have the right to go on somebody's property and remove their hot water tank. We've had people in town where their yards have become like junkyards, for lack of a better term. And neighbors complained. Ultimately, we cited the individual. We didn't have the right to go into his yard and remove all the junk until we went before a judge and obtained an injunction to do so. So we've got to be real careful when we're talking about going onto property to take action.
So once the, like for the weed or the grass violation, once that post is posted one time and the 7 days is up, does it have to be reposted again and again and again, or?
No, we can cut after the 7 days. I don't have the ordinance in front of me, but my recollection is 7 days we post, and then once, in other words, if it grows again,
right.
Yes, you'd have to
go through the whole.
Yes, you would.
Once it's posted and if it's not cut, community development notifies us, and then we have a contractor that's under contract that does our other accounts. We notify them to go in and cut that property. If they are not available to go in and cut it, we will go in ourselves and cut it.
Okay.
Ed?
Yeah, thank you.
I just want to piggyback on this code enforcement. I'd like to see a workshop on this. We've been talking about code enforcement in this community for so long. And you know what, Jim? I know we're mandated and we follow statutes of the states and stuff like that. I like to have everybody have a set of the code. Let's review the code. Let's see what options are out there. See what changes have been made. And let's strictly enforce it, because no neighbor should have to live next to a pigsty.
Agreed.
And I'm seeing it too, right across the street from Ray's house. I mean, the grass is literally 18 inches long. It's ridiculous. And there's guys in there that bought it. They're fixing it up to flip it. Let's workshop that, because it could be a good discussion and to come up and help some of the residents here in the community.
And as a board, you took a great step when you went in-house with administrative adjudication. That moved things along far quicker than it did.
But honestly, though, for us to enforce this is costing us money, far more, to get somebody to cut their grass. It's not the cost of cutting the grass, it's the staff time, the attorney time, the court the filings, and everything else. It costs us money. It's ridiculous.
Sure, we'll put that on for a future.
So if we got to up that fine and lean the house even more, you know what? We need to take a proactive approach on that. I'm sorry. Trustee Hein, you're next.
Thank you. I just want to piggyback on what you just said relative to some of the items that are lingering forever in some of our subdivisions. And that is utility trailers, boats, all these items that are parked in driveways for forever. And I know we have ordinances against it. They're not allowed, period. But it seems like we're getting more and more of them every day. So perhaps we can talk about that too.
Sure.
Code enforcement. You know, the village of Wheeling spends a lot of money to put on a happy face and put new flowers in every year. And Lori Hazelwood and her people work very hard to do that. And so we show a good face up front. So let's continue that on to the neighborhoods.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Hare?
Thank you. You guys all have that dazed look. Do you want me to talk? No, just kidding. I'm still getting used to my new chair down here, but I have nothing to say after being President Pro Tem.
Trustee Kruger?
I just want to say thanks to Tony for the recycling event. I was there too. I think my dog startled poor Christine. I'm so sorry. But it was a good event, and thanks. It was good to get rid of my son's TV. And last Saturday I went to the Garden Club fundraiser and thoroughly enjoyed myself and got burnt to a crisp yesterday putting in all my new flowers. So thank you very much. That's it.
Told our kids that she bought all hanging baskets.
No, I didn't.
Trustee Brady?
Thank you. I want to talk about a subject that we've touched on briefly in the past several times. Never really got anything going on it. In discussing, having a conversation with Terry Steinman, one of our oldest plan commissioners, he mentioned the fact that he's been thinking about what's going on with development in the town. He recognized the problem we had over at Milwaukee Industrial. He recognized the potential problem there could have been by Don Ross with some of the types of businesses that wanted to buy that for their own. And I think maybe right now is the time we should start looking at an overlay district for the airport, number one. Maybe there should be an overlay district that any development around the airport should be airport related in some sort. And on Milwaukee Avenue, maybe there should be an overlay district on retail, restaurant, and entertainment use. And, so we can tell somebody that wants to come in with a tire shop and put it behind our $1.2 million fountain that it don't belong there. Right now, we have nothing that we can tell them other than, no, for what reason. If there's zone property, everything else is in place, we're liable for a lawsuit if we turn them down for no other reason.
We have this topic as one of the highlights of next week's discussion with the Plan Commission.
Okay, well, I just wanted to see if we can move it along, and I think it's a hot item. I haven't heard. I'm surprised you say that because I haven't heard a word about this from anybody other than Commissioner Stylen, and he's been asking about it and hasn't heard a word about it. Now it's all set for next week.
I don't know about all set. It's a question we're going to discuss next week. I don't.
Okay, well, I hope we can, and I hope we can work on it and get it done quickly. Thank you.
Anything else?
That's it.
Manager Svandulis, you got anything?
No, sir.
Clerk Simpson?
No, nothing, thank you.
Good. I got a couple of things. Next Monday, Memorial Day, the parade will be down on McHenry Road there. It starts at 9 o'clock. We're going to get together at 9 o'clock over at Sam's Club. And actually, the parade will start at 10 a.m. going to AMVETS. There'll be a small ceremony afterwards. Please come out. If it's a nice day, bring the kids out so we can respectfully honor those who served and those who continue to serve our great nation. A couple other things. Our next meeting we won't have till June 3rd here. At that time, the village board will be hosting the new principal of Wheeling High School, Angela Cece, with a few members of 214. She'll be here early. We want to introduce her to the community. She's excited to be the new principal at Wheeling High School, and we're also looking forward to meeting her as well. Also, our next workshop meeting will be with the Plan Commission and our village staff, which will be held on May 30th at the Public Works facility at 6:30. It is an open meeting. We are going to discuss numerous, May 30th, right? Or 28th?
31st?
No.
What day? 30th?
30th?
Thursday, the 30th.
30th.
30th, okay, I'm sorry.
The lunchroom. Pizza will be served, I'm sure. But anyway, it's a time for us to work with the commission, along with our staff, cover some of the issues, some of the concerns through the past that I think we all need to get on a page, form the team, and move forward with some clear direction for the future of this community. So I'm looking forward to meeting that. Also, a meeting has been set up with the village staff, along with Trustee Brady acting as our liaison. A stormwater management utility program is being looked into. As we discussed before, not only during the campaign, but regarding any time we talk about flood issues in this community, it's always been an issue. So our staff has taken the time, along with Trustee Brady, to explore our options, explore what the program curtails, and how we can benefit by having this program on our books. So another thing I wanted to get a consensus with, speaking with staff, July meetings, there are 5 Mondays in July. It's also staff, and I concur, is they have our meetings in a row, January 1st, January 8th, I'm sorry, July 1st, July 8th, July 15th, and taking the last 2 Mondays off in July as a little maybe summer retreat, vacation, break, not just for our staff, but for ourselves as well, where we can plan some time with our family. So I don't know how everybody feels about that. I'll just go down the road so they can prepare the meetings and the agendas for the July meeting.
1st, 8th?
July 1st, 8th, and 15th.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, we're not missing any meetings.
No, we're not. We're actually taking business right in a row.
It's okay.
Bill? Trustee here? Trustee here?
I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Trustee Kruger?
Works for me.
Trustee Brady?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be in Canada for those 2 weeks. Anyways.
Oh, good.
Tell them he's coming there.
Switch it
Check
to
it
the
out on your
last 3.
iPod. You can be there in spirit.
Back some fish.
I thought you were leaving the end of the month.
No, Indiana,
I thought you were leaving the end of the month.
the 23rd.
It is the end of the month.
So it's fine.
You're fine.
Yeah.
Switch the
You say I'm
meetings
gonna miss
to
the first 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I thought he
let's
said, too.
switch it to the last 3, please.
That's fine. Okay.
Ken thinks
Dave would like to
Indiana
make a
is
motion to
Canada,
switch
let
to
him
the
go.
last.
Yeah, there you go,
Yeah.
Dave. Just real quick here. We had a nice process tonight, which was, we were very fortunate to get some applications, and we're getting more and more applications. Mary's too as well. And regarding the Plan Commission, and there's other commissions that are in June that will be coming up for renewal or reappointments or what have you. Something that I heard in the last couple of weeks from different people, that even though they're honored to be on a commission, some of them at this point in time feel maybe they're obligated to be on the, or feel obligated to be on the commission. Please don't. If the commission isn't, whether it be health or plan or seniors or whatever the case may be, and it's something that you're bored with, you're not excited about, you don't want to be a part of, please don't stay there feeling that you feel obligated to the village. You've served your time and it's well respected. And I think what this board is, and along with our staff, you know, there's interest now of some younger people wanting to come in, some new people want to come in with ideas, and we welcome that. So any of those who are sitting on a commission, there's no need, you don't have to stay till the end of your term. If you're satisfied with what you've done and what you contribute, we thank you. And we also would appreciate, you know what, we don't want to have that burden on you where you feel obligated. So you can contact my office, you can contact the village manager's office and put in a request and say, you know what, maybe you're right. I can do some other things, or maybe you need to pass it down to somebody else with some fresher ideas or new thoughts. So I just wanted to express that information out there, because I heard it from 2 people and I thought, wow, it's almost like a jail sentence. You know, don't make it feel that way. It's something you should be excited about, want to be a part of, and if it's not an interest of yours anymore, then we all need to move on. So with that in mind, I would ask for the approval of the bills for May 2nd, 2013 through May 15th, 2013.
So move.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Hare, second by Trustee Kruger. Roll call.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Hare?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
President Argyros?
Yes. I'd like to entertain a motion to recess into executive session for the purchase or lease of property by the village pending probable and/or imminent litigation, the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employee or employees of the village.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by trustee Brady, second by trustee Kruger. Roll call.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Heer?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
President Urjers?
Yes, we'll convene into executive session at 8:30. Good night, everybody, and thank you.